how are you?
I'm very good, very good. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Jan, let's start from those two institutes that you founded and co-founded, Future of Life and Existential Risk. Of course, those two things are tied, not only because you are in both, but clearly you see a link. So how do we frame the question of existential risk today?
So there are kind of multiple ways to frame existential risk. Like some of them more sophisticated, some less. But I think the kind of like for practical purposes, it would be useful to just like think about human extinction, just kind of going extinct as species, as many other species on this planet have gone.
So the context in which you operate generally, historically, forever, since the beginning of time, has been dominated by one dominant species. And for the last several 100,000 years, it has been humans. Basically, what you're suggesting with the work of these two institutes is that this may be about to change.
Indeed. I mean, I totally agree with Anima, who said that AI seems to be the most powerful force of our time. And indeed, I'm kind of worried that it might be kind of too powerful for our own good.
So you've put out a list a while ago of the top existential risks, and AI comes first, even before synthetic biology and others. Unknown unknowns, I think, was the third one. Tell us what are, in your view, the main dangers of AI as it is developed today. Make us a short list, like the top 2 or 3.
I would say that like there are short-term dangers and long-term dangers. So like and short-term dangers are basically dangers from AI that was invented a few years ago and that is now getting deployed. Things like face recognition, helping increasing the power differentials and whatnot, and like biases in decision making. But then like there are long-term concerns, and long-term concerns are about AI that doesn't exist yet, but possibly could be invented. I mean, later today or next year or next decade. And the danger from there really come from the fact that we are very fragile as biological species on this planet. Like if you change the temperature here by just 5 degrees, there's like clearly everybody acknowledges that this is like a now global problem. But like for AI, by default, AI would not care about the environment. So like if you end up sharing the world with sufficiently powerful systems that do not care about the environment, we might lose the habitability of the environment.
So you're seeing AI as a potential danger, actually, in terms of the way it develops, even for the climate and for the environment.
Exactly.
There's been literally dozens of attempts at figuring out an ethical or regulatory framework for AI. On the regulatory side, things like the European Union putting out a plan for AI regulation. On the ethical side, dozens of committees and groups and so proposing ethical charts for AI. Do any of those strike you as appropriate or strong enough or workable?
I highly commend those attempts, as I commend technology regulation in general, because technology is a neutral force that kind of needs additional constraints in order to kind of remain positive. But I do think that they're clearly like nowhere near enough. Like the big problem is that like humanity just doesn't possess the knowledge how to constrain something that is potentially more powerful, that is potentially more competent planner than we are. So like it's so what this suggests is that right now we just need more research, you know, to figure out like how to constrain powerful things like AI, and then look at what are the reasonable things to regulate.
So what's your proposal? How do we constrain that?
I mean, as I said, I don't know, but like I do think that on a meta level, things that sound very valuable are again sort of having more people think about this thing. That's like for one, and indeed I'm trying to do my best to increase that number. Then perhaps think about kind of more abstract things that we want our regulatory bodies to have, or more abstract capabilities. Like I claim that it would be valuable to start thinking about if it turns out that we need to limit the power of data centers, for example, how much concentration per square kilometer of compute we can have unregulated, it might be a good time to kind of start thinking about it. I'm not saying that it's kind of, we should do that now, but it would be great if that need wouldn't catch us by surprise. And then finally, I think very important thing is just like international cooperation, like thinking about like this AI thing, if it gets sufficiently powerful, it will impact us as species. It's not going to be like US thing or Chinese thing or European thing. It will be like a thing that just like COVID affects everyone on this planet. So like the more kind of preparation in international level we can do in advance, the better.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be something likely to happen right now. But but on the point before, so basically you're saying if we really can't regulate something that's about to become bigger than us as itself, we can probably put limits on the inputs. So on how much computing power can go towards it, how much energy can go towards it, how much data can be inputted into it. That's a little bit the place where you see a potential intervention.
Yeah, so that I think is like something that is definitely doable. I think it's much more doable than kind of limiting certain kinds of algorithms and whatnot, which are much harder to regulate.
Do you think that companies and markets can kind of self-regulate?
There is a lot of hope that I have in that area, indeed. For example, I used to be on the board of DeepMind, from where Corey is, and like one big push that I kind of report was successful to actually have people that are working full time on long-term safety issues. And I think as there's certainly like a massive increase in kind of awareness among AI researchers in general that this is a big problem that we need to do our homework on, and therefore I'm going to remain optimistic that people who are kind of close to the trenches, so to speak, actually are going to do a lot of homework.
Then, of course, there is the question of the very big potential upside of AI, right? To go back to your example about climate and the environment, AI allows us to get better climate modeling and these kind of things. So we need to find the balance between those two things.
Oh yeah, so I mean, I care about all the existential risks. If we go extinct, like I don't think it's so important, like which way we do. But I do think that AI is like high leverage in that sense. That if we manage to figure out how to do it like powerful general AI safely, then we are in a much better position to address the other existential risks, including from synthetic biology to nuclear to asteroids and whatnot. Whereas like if we just fix the asteroid risk, like we still have all the other risks to contend with.
Okay. Jaan, thank you for coming to Sparks, even though only virtually. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much. Bye.